In the far reaches of an infinite cosmos, there's a galaxy that looks just like the Milky Way, with a solar system that's the spitting image of ours, with a planet that's a dead ringer for Earth, with a house that's indistinguishable from yours, inhabited by someone who looks just like you, who is right now reading this very book and imagining you in a distant galaxy, just reaching the end of this sentence. And there's not just one such copy. In an infinite universe, there are infinitely many. In some, your doppelganger is now reading this sentence along with you. In others, he or she has skipped ahead or feels in need of a snack and has put the book down. This is the lead into Micaiah Johnson's The Space Between Worlds. I'm going to dive in here spoiler-free until I get to my 5 likes and 5 dislikes. Kara is a reacher. She doesn't sit still, and she is not complacent in her standing or status in this dystopian world. She is a traverser. The Earth she lives and works on has the ability to send individuals to other Earths in infinite universes. The catch is that a traverser can only cross to worlds where they do not have a living doppelganger. Kara fits this role nicely, not just due to her temperament, but more significantly because her parallel self is dead on most other worlds, or at least on worlds that are most similar to her own. It's worth noting the other Earths are named and numbered based on their similarities to the homeworld. For example, on World 5, everyone is nearly living the same life with the same experiences, relationships, similar choices made, similar consequences and similar outcomes, etc. Whereas if you go to Earth 300, you're likely to see much more deviation from the familiar timeline on the base world. In the novel, we follow Kara's traversing in her relationships both at home and in other worlds. We follow her as she is sent to a world where her counterpart has died a mysterious death. Secrets will be revealed, and she will have to decide how far she will go to expose those secrets and how far she will reach for revenge, for love, and for life. This book is definitely a thriller. The characters feel very real, and the relationships between characters are dynamic and brilliantly crafted. There is great diversity in this book, not limited to people of color, non-binary characters, bisexuality, culture and class conflict, etc. Micaiah Johnson, in her first novel, delivers a masterpiece, an absolute masterpiece. It will sit on my shelf next to Le Guin and Okorafor. Not a page is wasted. There were more ideas and experiences than 300 pages should have allowed. The story is filled with suspense, drama, and gut-wrenching romance. You will root for Kara. You will hope for her. You will cry for her. You will, I suspect, find this novel fit to be read. Like number 1. Right from the start, we are brought in and put into the exact right headspace for a story that is going to be about multiple universes or dimensions on infinite worlds. That lead-in that I read, that happens even before the first chapter. Just thinking about that, another version of yourself reading the same book and then getting to the end of the same sentence and deciding to put the book down or not. The consequences of what the rest of the world and the rest of your life looks like, that butterfly effect, just making any one of those decisions. And from there, the timelines split, and the Earth may be similar or vastly different than what it would have been otherwise. Like number 2, 90 pages in, we get twists and surprises. We're already really rooting for our main character. This makes the book very difficult to put down. The twists and surprises continue throughout the book. Dislike number 1. Before page 90, it is a little difficult to get a solid footing. We understand that Kara is traversing to other worlds, and there's a corporation that she works for that has this mechanism for her to do so. We don't really have a feel for what is the value of these expeditions and what are her missions. We have some idea that she's doing it because they are trying to gather information about these other worlds, but it really doesn't come apparent until towards the end of the book what is really going on here. And that might have been something that we could have been brought in on a little earlier, because there's so much suspense and drama and richness in the story as there is. We could have benefited from having a better idea of what are they really doing there and what kind of information is she gathering or are the other traversers gathering. Like number 3, Kara is an incredible character. Her personality is so layered and dynamic. Breaking her character is no easy feat. There's a romance, there were other types of relationships that she has with other characters in the book. And it was so easy, it would be so easy to have a device where, we see how she changes her attitude and pursues the love interest, or how she behaves the way maybe we would behave towards other characters in the book. But her character is so solid in who she is and what her personality is. You can't just have her flip a switch and be somebody else. It's so well developed, and when she does make any kind of changes or elements of growth, it's really hard fought, and we see the process as it develops. Such a really strong and impactful part of this book. Dislike number 2. I would have liked to have had a little bit larger cast of characters. The characters in this story are great. They're really interesting. They're absolutely three-dimensional. Even the smallest of characters in this book are given a really respectful treatment in terms of making them multi-dimensional. But I would have liked to have seen a larger cast of not just characters, but of the institutions. In a story that encompasses multiple, infinite universes, it really shrinks to fit this core group of characters that we get to know. We have a couple of main characters, and then maybe 3 or 4 minor characters, and that's where the story really lives. And they are interesting, but it has a little bit of a small town feel. To be fair, the book is so filled with experiences and activity and crisis and conflict and the mission. There's not a lot of room to do much else, and to have a larger cast of characters or institutions, we would have needed to double the size of this, but Micaiah Johnson would have needed to double the size of this book. Dislike number 3. I want to go back to dislike number 1 and sort of piggyback on that. Whereas I mentioned on the first dislike, we weren't getting a real solid footing in terms of what was the point of the traversing. Halfway through the book, we're still not very clear what are the purpose of these missions in terms of information gathering. What is Kara looking for? What is her role? We're getting a lot of story about the relationships and the experiences she's having with people on her own world and people on the worlds that she's visiting. But we're not getting a real clear sense of why she's actually there and what she's actually doing and what she's actually investigating. And I don't think that's necessarily done on purpose. I know there's a little bit of a surprise about that later in the book, but I do feel like it would have been more valuable to the reader's experience had we just had even one more paragraph about the mission of this company, the reason they're sending these traversers more specifically. Like number 4, you want to know what happens when traversing goes wrong? Page 152. I can almost see the dark shadow of Naomi's hand as she wraps it around the front of him like a child picking up a doll. There is no indecision, no trying to make him fit like there was with me. In a flick of motion, she lifts him, presses her thumb to his sternum, and breaks him in half. She squeezes the new shape of him together, and I'm grateful this dark space is silent, because I never want to know what it sounds like for shoulder blades to fuse to knees, ribs to thighs. After he is bent, he is pulled, stretched apart from the center, out until bone and joints give, and sinew and muscles are extended like red and black taffy, somehow catching shine in this place with so little light. Now, I'm a personal trainer. I can tell you, I don't know what that looks like either. That is wild. I'm grateful this dark place is silent, because I never want to know what it sounds like for shoulder blades to fuse to knees, ribs to thighs. The whole book is very visual. That obviously is a little bit more of an outlier in terms of things that are a little extreme to imagine and picture. But it comes at, halfway into the book and you're really into the story, and that one's really gonna hit you. Dislike number 4. This isn't a big one. There's so many surprises. I'm gonna say that over and over again. There's a lot of surprises. There's a lot of suspense. It is a thriller. There's a part where she finds out who Bosch really is because she sees who he is on the other world. And she comes back to her home Earth, or her adopted home Earth. And she is in possession of this information. And I just want her to blurt it out so that we're not left with the suspense of like wondering what she's going to tell this person. And you know how that is in shows and books and stuff. Somebody has the secret and you're like, just get it out there so it's not a secret. It's not a dangerous secret you're living with. And of course we know that that's not going to happen right away because it's a device in the story that's going to bring even more suspense. But there's so much suspense at this point that we don't need that. But it's actually really great, so I shouldn't call it a dislike, but I need 5 dislikes. And this book is so wonderful, I can't come up with 5 dislikes if I don't cheat a little bit. Dislike number 5. Again, this is something I don't really care that much about, but I'm really grasping for straws here to come up with another dislike. I'm going to go back to this point where she's meeting Bosch in his little garden area, and we have a little bit of a mention of maybe it's Starla, and Kara's looking around to see who it is going to be that's going to show up because she got this note telling her to meet there. And we all kind of have an idea, I think, that we know it's going to be Bosch that she's meeting. So we throw in Starla in there, and we know it's not going to be Starla. Come on, right? So that's my last and final dislike. My final like number 5. I'm going to read from my notes here. I just want to get down what I said. The love story is tough. In a good way. You really don't know what will happen or where it will go, who thinks what. It's dynamic. It's refreshingly original. It gets a little bit of a rushed treatment at the end, but I think that's earned. We're not given any easy path into this relationship between Kara and Del. We don't even know if Del has an interest in Kara. We can kind of sense that maybe this is going to be the main love story of the book early on, and that's okay. But again, this goes back to what I was saying about not breaking Kara's character easily. We have to see the fight that she makes with her own personality, her own demons throughout this story. Mischaracterizations of each other, misunderstandings, and we really see the growth of both of these characters, even though Del doesn't get a whole lot of screen time or page time, so to speak. But the relationship is very interesting, and the payoff, when we finally see them together, it's really awesome. It's a really well done romance. It's a really great love story. I've read books that have love stories, and usually to me they're quirky, or they're not believable, or they're too fluffy. This one was hard fought, and that was my final like of the book. There you have it. Those are my 5 likes and my 5 dislikes. With these videos, I do reviews of books that I've loved, books that I like, books that I was not as fond of, but I like to always push myself to come up with 5 likes and 5 dislikes, even if I have to cheat a little bit to get there, because I always think, even in a bad book, there's good things that can be said, and even in a great book, you can find things that you can be a little bit critical of. I hope that this is a helpful review for folks who just stayed for the spoiler-free part and can determine based on that if they want to read the book. And then also, once we got to the 5 likes and 5 dislikes, for those who have read the book and just wanted to extend the life of it in your mind a little bit longer, would love if you would comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what other people thought, or thought about not just the book, but about my reaction to it. I'd love to hear your reaction to it. Please subscribe. Please, try to remember what my son said to say. He said, smash the notification bell. That's what we're supposed to do now. We're supposed to smash the notification bell. And please look at my other videos. I'm Michael Everts, fit to be read. Thank you.